Hare Krishna. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada. Jayom Vishnupada Paramahamsa Paribrajacharya Astottara Satashi Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON's founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Paribrajacharya Astottara Satashi Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki. Prem Sakaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki. Shri Vrindavan Dhama Ki. Mayapur Navadvip Dhama Ki. Ganga Mai Ki. Yamuna Mai Ki. Bhakti Devi Ki. Tulsi Maharani Ki. Samveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Gaur Premanande. So this morning we're continuing the reading from the 4th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 12, entitled Dhruva Maharaj Goes Back to Godhead, text 31 and 32. We will recite 32 responsively, and I'll just recite the verse and translation for 31. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Tedadundu bhayone dhur mridanga panavadhaya Gandharva mukhya prajagu petu kushuma vrishtaya. At that time, drums and kettle drums resounded from the sky. The chief Gandharvas began to sing, and other demigods showered flowers like torrents of rain upon Dhruva Maharaj. Text 32. Sa cha swahalokam arokshan sunitim jananim dhruvaham Anvasmarat agam hitva dinam yasye trivishtabam sacha swalokyam arokshan sacha swalokyam arokshan sunitim jananim dhruva Suniting jananim dhruva Anvasmaradagam hitva Anvasmaradagam hitva Dinam yasye trivishtapam Dinam yasye trivishtapam Sacha swarlokyam arokshan Sunitim jananim dhruva Anvasmaradagam hitva Dinam yasye trivishtapam Sacha swarlokyam arokshan Suniting jananing dhruva Anvasmaradagam hitva Dinam yasye trivishtapam. Sunitim jananim dhruva anvasmaradagam hitva Dinam yasya trivishtapam sacha svarlokyam arokshan sunitim jananim dhruva anvasmaradagam hitva dinam chayasya trivishtapam sacha svarlokyam arokshan sunitim jananim dhruva anvasmaradagam hitva dinam yasya trivishtapam sa he cha also swahalokam to the celestial planet arokshan about to ascend sunitim suniti jananim mother dhruva Dhruva Maharaj Anvasmarat immediately remembered agam difficult to attain hitva leaving behind dinam poor yasya I shall go trivishtapam to the Vaikuntha planet. Translation. Dhruva was seated in the transcendental airplane which was just about to start when he remembered his poor mother Suniti. He thought to himself, how shall I go alone to the Vaikuntha planet and leave behind my poor mother? Purport. Dhruva had a feeling of obligation to his mother Suniti. It was Suniti who had given him the clue which had now enabled him to be personally carried to the Vaikuntha planet by the associates of Lord Vishnu. He now remembered her and wanted to take her with him. Actually, Dhruva Maharaj's mother, Suniti, was his Partha Pradarshaka Guru. Partha Pradarshaka Guru means the Guru or the spiritual master who shows the way. Such a Guru is sometimes called Shiksha Guru. Although Narad Muni was his Diksha Guru, initiating spiritual master, Suniti, his mother, was the first who gave him instruction on how to achieve the favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is the duty of the Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru to instruct the disciple in the right way, and it depends on the disciple to execute the process. According to Shastric injunctions, there is no difference between Shiksha Guru and Diksha Guru, and generally the Shiksha Guru later on becomes the Diksha Guru. Suniti, however, being a woman, and specifically his mother, could not become Dhruva Maharaja's Diksha Guru. Still, he was not less obliged to Suniti. There was no question of carrying Narada Muni to Vaikuntha Loka, but Dhruva Maharaj thought of his mother. Whatever plan the Supreme Personality of Godhead contemplates immediately fructifies. Similarly, a devotee who is completely dependent on the Supreme Lord can also fulfill his wishes by the grace of the Lord. The Lord fulfills his wishes independently, but a devotee fulfills his wishes simply by being dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, as soon as Dhruva Maharaj thought of his poor mother, he was assured by the associates of Vishnu that Suniti was also going to Vaikuntha Loka in another plane. Dhruva Maharaj had thought that he was going alone to Vaikuntha Loka, leaving behind his mother. which was not very auspicious because people would criticize him for going alone to Vaikuntha Loka and not carrying with him Suniti, who had given him so much. But Dhruva also considered that he was not personally the supreme. Therefore, only if Krishna fulfilled his desires would it be possible. Krishna could immediately understand his mind, and he told Dhruva that his mother was also going with him. This incident proves that a pure devotee, like Dhruva Maharaj, can fulfill all his desires. By the grace of the Lord, he becomes exactly like the Lord, and thus whenever he thinks of anything, his wish is immediately fulfilled. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Shavadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitanscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagatapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shinnivari Paschatya Deshatarine Sacha Swarlokyam Arokshan Sunitim Jananim Dhruva Anvasmarad Agam Hitva Dinam Yasya Trivishtapam. Dhruva was seated in the transcendental airplane which was just about to start. When he remembered his poor mother Suniti, he thought to himself, how shall I go alone to the Vaikuntha planet and leave behind my poor mother? As we read in the purport, this is quite purport and verse. This is quite an example of the nature of a devotee who is grateful. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Srila Prabhupada's summary Nectar of Devotion, Krishna's various qualities are detailed, and one of them is that Krishna is Kritagya. He is grateful. And naturally, by being part and parcel of Krishna, all the living entities also carry similar qualities. However, those qualities, due to conditioning, may be deeply covered, less covered, or quite manifest in the personality of a devotee. And gratitude is one of the most important qualities of Krishna, and thus one of the most important qualities of any living entity. Actually, without the quality of gratitude, one cannot be considered a human being. That's just the bottom line of it. And Srila Prabhupada, quoting Srila Rupa Goswami, describes the quality of gratitude. In Sanskrit it is called Kritagya. Krita means activity or actions, and Gya means to know. How does Kritagya equal gratitude. This is the mystery of the Sanskrit language. It's very rich in the way it's broken down to its roots. So Kritagya, Rupa Goswami says, is that when someone is aware of another's benevolent activities towards him, that is called gratitude. So being aware of what someone has done for you means gratitude. However, we also understand that that is just half the issue. Here we find in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, he is aware, as very nicely described in the purport by Prabhupada. Suniti was the one who first gave him the way, or showed him the way to fulfill his desires. Suniti, I can't remember reading this detail, whether she knew or not. She saw that her son had such intense material desires. We were hearing in class a couple of weeks ago that actually Dhruva's material desires was much greater than Ravana's and Hiranyakashipu's, if you think about it. Not in a diabolical sense, not in a sense to exploit and enjoy others, but to own much more. He wanted a kingdom greater than Lord Brahma's. You don't read of that about Hiranyakashipu and Ravana, really, but Dhruva wanted this. Suniti could see this boy, being a Kshatriya, venting his anger. He wanted this. He wanted to show everybody his worth. So she pointed him. She understood that the only person who could fulfill your desire, my dear son, is the Supreme Lord. So you should go to him. Where can I find him? You go to the forest. You go to Vrindavan. So that in itself is full and complete and perfect instruction, isn't it? For whatever you need, go to the Supreme Lord. Where do you find the Supreme Lord? Vrindavan. Worship the Supreme Lord. That's in 3 statements. She's given the full context of spiritual process. Therefore, she is described in the purport by Srila Prabhupada as Dhruva's Vartma or Pata Pradarshika Guru, one who sets the living entity on the path to Krishna, on the path of spiritual life. And that is in no way any small, meager contribution. You may all sit here now and think, let me go back and consider who was that Pata Pradarshika Guru in my life. And am I desiring the way Dhruva is desiring for that person? It's very important to go back in time. Because if you forget who that person is, then you are not grateful. Because part of being grateful is Krita Gya, to know when someone has done something, especially on this level. So appreciation, this is important. So Dhruva is expressing his appreciation by remembering his mother, remembering what she has done for him, and then petitioning the associates, Nanda and Sananda, petitioning the Lord, what about my mother? Can I take her? He wants to reciprocate in this way. He wants to do that. So yes, appreciation, gratitude, these are foundational qualities of a devotee, without which one cannot really be a devotee. The whole process of bhakti, Shri Shri Radha Radhanath Ki, the whole process of bhakti is based on the practice of reciprocation, isn't it? We see the effort Krishna makes in our lives to maintain us, to nurture us, to guide us, and we reciprocate with bhakti, with devotion to Krishna. It's all about reciprocation. Being aware and reciprocating with what we are aware of. Generally, we are very, very quick, the conditioned living entity is very, very quick to be aware of the bad things that are done to you and to reciprocate. An eye for an eye, right? We want to get back at the person. And the tendency to be aware of the positive things, the helpful things that one has done, and to reciprocate is less, because that's due to conditioning. But bhakti is the softening of the heart to the extent that one becomes unaware of the negativity that is given to you, that is offered to you, and becomes less and less potent or potentially reactive to give back to someone who has done something negative to you. That is the nature of bhakti. The heart becomes so soft. And one becomes more and more attuned even to the little things that someone has done for you in bhakti and wanting to reciprocate. This is the nature of devotional service. It's a reciprocal process. Another interesting thing that comes out here is that Suniti is described, accurately of course, to be his Dharma Pradashika Guru, that spiritual teacher who showed him the path of bhakti, and thus also called Shiksha Guru, which is distinct, in a sense, from Dhruva's Diksha Guru. Who is Dhruva Maharaj's Diksha Guru? The one who gave him Diksha? No. Narad Muni. Oh, you said, I just heard Vyasadeva. That was a trick answer. Normally we get trick questions. This was a trick answer. Yes, Srila Vyasadev's spiritual master. Narada Muni. Yes. Of course, it's a... Anyway. So Narada Muni is the Diksha Guru of Dhruva Maharaj. And here we see that generally people are completely focused on Diksha Guru, the spiritual master who initiates the person and becomes a very prominent part of their lives, the most prominent part. It becomes so prominent, larger than anything else, that there's little room for remembrance and appreciation of anyone else who has done something positive for the person. Here it's not that case. It's not that way, isn't it? Dhruva is very mindful of everyone who has done anything for him, not just his Diksha Guru. Not just his Diksha Guru. In the beginning, yes, one may have a tendency to have only focus on one's Diksha, initiating spiritual master, because somehow by the nature of how institutions and spiritual communities evolve, and it starts off from an immature level, even an individual and a community starts off immaturely, and they grow into maturity. So the way even our ISKCON community has evolved, there's much focus on a Diksha Guru, focus and appreciation, because it's so ever looming around you. There's initiation ceremonies done with lots of pomp and honor and grace, lots of garlands, fire yagyas and vows taken in public, and names are given. So it creates a very deep samskara. It is a samskara, it is a rite of passage. So these things are so powerfully done that it creates such a deep impression that one may forget all the other impressions one has in their lives. Whereas if you take other forms of Diksha ceremonies going back in time, even let's say one of the greatest Gaudiya Acharyas, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, how did he receive Diksha? Very quietly, I think by a river, in the ear, quietly. No one else was around, I think. No pomp and, big hoo-ha about it. Like that. That develops in the heart of in the person this mood, that even Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, what was his mood about everyone else? besides Gaurakishore Das Babaji, when he saw everyone else offering him obeisances or coming to him, what was his response to that person? Daso Sme. I am your servant. He saw them as representatives of his Guru Maharaj, Srila Gaurakishore Das Babaji. He wasn't all consumed. When one becomes all consumed by the spiritual master and by Krishna, all consuming means one's vision develops more and more. One broadens one's vision. One becomes udharadhi, one of broad intelligence, broad vision. His Holiness Bhakti Charaswami gives a very nice understanding in this regard about maturing as a society and as an individual. But he said it as an individual. He said in the beginning, yes, one naturally will just see the spiritual master, the Diksha Guru, that gave you initiation, gave you name, accepted your vows, connected you to the parampara. These are the functions of a Diksha Guru, and gives transcendental knowledge. But as one matures and advances, then one has a broader outlook and begins to appreciate not only the Diksha Guru, but appreciates all Vaishnavas in one's life. This is a sign of a devotee who's maturing. This is the sign of a devotee who's maturing. This is very important to understand. Sometimes I've seen devotees, they may fear, some disciples may fear, that we must only focus on my spiritual master and no one else. Because how will Guru Maharaj feel if I am showing some honor to someone else? It's an actual thing. We've seen it, we've had to experience it and help devotees get out of that syndrome, so to speak. How would Guru Maharaj feel if I do focus on someone else, hear from another saintly Vaishnava? Guru Maharaj will actually feel very pleased. Here is someone, my disciple, who is honoring other Vaishnavas, who's maintaining the Vaishnava etiquette. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, when devotees uphold Vaishnava Sadachar, it greatly pleases his mind. Greatly pleases his mind. So Guru will be very pleased. Actually, a Guru who restricts his disciples from honoring other great Vaishnavas is actually not a bona fide spiritual master. Not. This is what Srila Jiva Goswami says in his Bhakti Sandarbha. And such a spiritual master should be kept at a distance. This is coming from Jiva Goswami. Anyway, so the principle of appreciating the role of all teachers in one's life is being emphasized here, very much emphasized. Even the person who showed you the path, no matter what their condition is. We have heard stories of devotees whose Varkna Pradashika gurus were intoxicated at that time, giving them the path of devotional service, giving them a book in Krishna consciousness. They may have been intoxicated even. They may have even fallen away from the path of bhakti. But still, this example of what Dhruva Maharaj is teaching us must be upheld by us, that we must desire the best for that person, because they set us on the path to attain the greatest treasure. So by gratitude and appreciation, there is a certain reciprocating potency that comes from Krishna through that person. And that person who you appreciate and feel grateful for what they have done to you, they become pleased. And we all know that when the devotee becomes pleased, whose pleasure naturally follows? Krishna's pleasure naturally follows. Krishna cannot help but follow the emotions of a devotee. Krishna is helpless in that regard. His pleasure follows the pleasure of a devotee. His pain follows the pain of a devotee. Everything that the devotee feels, Krishna's feels the same thing, following. So if we please the devotee through appreciation and gratitude, Krishna automatically is pleased. This is a very important principle. Also, Prabhupada alludes to what could be seen as a social consideration and a spiritual consideration. As Dhruva also, he understood that if he doesn't take his mother along, he will be criticized. Isn't it? What kind of a son are you? You are not taking care of your mother. You are attaining this nice, big, amazing destination now, the spiritual world, but you're not bothered about her? What kind of a son, what kind of a child are you? Putra, what does the word putra mean? One who delivers. The offspring who delivers the parent. Tra means like mantra, to deliver, to free one. So what kind of a putra would Dhruva be if he doesn't act for the benefit of his mother? So he could see that he would get criticized. But on a spiritual level, he was saying that what kind of a disciple are you? That once you've been benefited by the spiritual master, you are kicking the spiritual master away. This basically is the consciousness of the impersonalist. They have a system, a process, where they accept initiation, accept the shelter of a guru, get benefited, and once they attain the goal, there is no need for the spiritual master. It becomes redundant. Not just the spiritual master, even the deity, different deities, demigods or Krishna or something, they focus on the deity. Like I had the opportunity to meet, he was very saintly, he was a very, very saintly renunciate, spiritual leader in South Africa. And twice I met him, and each time I remember, I was very moved by his spiritual potency. He had some Shakti in him. And each time, he told me very happily that my guru, our guru, his guru, was a very big spiritual leader in India, all over the world actually. My guru's Ishta Devta, worshipable deity, is Gopal. Gopal. The first time I met him, when I heard it, I thought, oh wow, this is so amazing, but why are you all impersonalists? If your guru's deity is Gopal, how can you be an impersonalist? But as I learned more and read more, yes, they worship Gopal with the mood to become Gopal. That the form is not necessary, because now you realize, I am the same. Tattvam asi, I am that, the same. Prabhupada exemplified this in quite a nice action. Once in Mayapur Dham, he was taking a walk with the disciples, many devotees, and walking through rice paddy fields. And the paddy fields are separated by long mounds of earth to keep each one separate. So as they were walking, Prabhupada needed to go over one mound to continue walking. So one of the disciples went ahead, went to the top of the mound, and held a hand out for Prabhupada and pulled Prabhupada up. And when Prabhupada got to the top of the mound, Prabhupada very strongly pushed the disciple's hand away, flung it away. What's that? Prabhupada said, yes, this is how a Mayavadi does. He takes the help of the spiritual master, and when he gets to the top, rejects it. No need anymore. But in bhakti, appreciation and gratitude doesn't come to an end. It's always there. Even when one enters Vaikuntha, even when one enters Goloka. Because the spiritual master will also be there, engaging you in Lord Chaitanya's service, engaging you in Radha and Krishna's service. In whatever form you may have, you will still be following in that way the spiritual master. So you will always be under the shelter, because that's how Krishna arranged it. If you don't like it, find another spiritual world. Find another God. And sorry, that's not going to happen. But that's Krishna's system. That's Krishna's system. Krishna never accepts anything that is not done with appreciation and gratitude, that's not offered with appreciation and gratitude through the lotus feet of the spiritual master. This is another point. Through the what? Lotus feet of the Guru. I remember this point I experienced this very strongly from His Holiness Devamrita Swami a number of years ago. He was looking at someone's altar picture of their spiritual master, and it was this nice, very nice picture of the chest and head and hands. And Maharaj said, that's not an altar picture. The lotus feet must be shown, because everything is offered through the lotus feet of the spiritual master. So, must have the lotus feet. That humility that we're going through the lotus feet is what attracts Krishna. It attracts Krishna. One can only be appreciative or have gratitude in one's heart if one is humble, isn't it? You have to have humility to appreciate and to be grateful. Humility also means that you're able to see clearly, you're able to see above. And when one is looking at above oneself, one has a greater range of vision than just looking down. It's limited when you're looking down. But when you're looking above, wow, I see so much more variety. So humility means to be looking above to the devotees, to Krishna, appreciating their greatness. You cannot understand someone's greatness if you're looking down on them, isn't it? You'll just see their head. But when you're looking up at the devotees, yes, they are so great. When you're looking up at Krishna, so great. This is how we become humble, by understanding and appreciating the greatness of Krishna and the greatness of Krishna's devotees. Starting with the spiritual master. Remember, starting with the spiritual master, not ending, starting and ending, but starting with the spiritual master. This is a very, very, very vital principle. So yes, the spiritual master, the principle of the spiritual master, in our process, in the process of bhakti, in the way it has been given to us, in our sampradaya, the position of the spiritual master, or our appreciation of the spiritual master in our life, is held in a higher stead than even the position of Krishna and the appreciation of Krishna in our lives. That is our process. That is our process. I'm always moved. Very often I think about this exchange I experienced with His Holiness Bhakticharya Swami, where he was asked a question by a devotee that we are taught that one must remember Krishna at the time of death. That's what Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita. But Maharaj, what if we remember the lotus feet of the spiritual master at the time of death? What is our destination? And Maharaj immediately said, same destination, no difference. And after a few moments silence, Maharaj said, actually, our process is to remember the lotus feet of the spiritual master, not to remember Krishna. He made that point. So the position of remembering, honoring, worshipping, and feeling grateful to the spiritual master comes first. It is our everything. And Dhruva Maharaj is showing that. He did not want to go to Vaikuntha without his guru, his mother. Such was his appreciation. Such was his appreciation. We read about this also in Prahlad Maharaj's prayers, another one of Narada Muni's disciples. See the quality of Narada Muni's disciples. So powerful. Prahlad is saying that my spiritual master, I was falling down into a well of snakes, blinded by so many material attachments, following the general people, the general populace. But who saved me? My spiritual master Narada Muni. And what does he tell Lord Nrsingadev in that prayer? How can I leave his service? How can I accept anything from you, my Lord, separate from my spiritual master Narada Muni? I cannot. Please do not ask this of me. Whatever I can receive from you comes through the grace of my spiritual master. We never receive anything. We never give anything directly to Krishna, and we never receive any mercy directly from Krishna. It's all coming and going through the position or the person of the spiritual master. In this case, spiritual masters. In our case. So everything comes and goes that way. Also in the purport, we find very important points, many important points. Prabhupada says, it is the duty of the Shiksha Guru or Diksha Guru to instruct the disciple in the right way. So that's important. Shiksha and Diksha Guru means the way you know, how do you identify them? You must also be studying the philosophy. You must also be getting association of other sadhus, so Shastra and Sadhu, to understand that the Guru is instructing you in the right way. And when you can see that and you surrender to their right instructions, then Prabhupada says, and it depends on the disciple to execute the process. Just receiving the instructions, the right instructions of the bona fide spiritual teachers is half the effort. I mean, it's a big effort to surrender to a spiritual master, isn't it? It's a big thing. The whole Bhagavad Gita was spoken to get Arjuna to accept the instruction and to start something, start to follow. And the next 18 days, he was following, fighting. So he heard for, some people say, hour and a half, 2 hours at the start of the battlefield on that Ekadashi day, right? But he executed for 18 days. Right? So it depends on the disciple to execute the process. This is important. A lot depends, everything depends on our determination to follow the instructions that are given by the Shiksha and Diksha Guru. This is essential. Prabhupada speaks about this man who falls down the well and he's crying out for help, and then the Good Samaritan comes and throws down the rope and says, yeah, catch onto the rope, I'll hold it and you just climb up. And the man says, oh, my dear sir, so kind of you, but please, can you give me the strength to curl my fingers around the rope and pull me up? And Prabhupada is saying, what is that? I have given you my mercy in the form of my instructions. Now you have to take the effort to follow them. That is your part. The mercy of the Guru comes in the form of instructions. Very often we become sentimental. Guru Maharaj, oh Prabhuji, oh Mataji, please give me your mercy. Please give me your mercy. What are we expecting? Some white light to shine out of the person's palm and enter into our hearts, and we just become illuminated, and this glow of lightning all around us, and suddenly we're in the spiritual world. No, the mercy is given in the form of instructions. We must recognize that. That's where the mercy is. That's where the mercy is. Because if everything is given, if the instructions are given, if you are carried back to Godhead, if you are placed in the lap of Krishna, you know what is the distinct possibility that will happen, that will take place? What will happen? You will take it for granted. You will take it very cheaply and lightly. We were speaking the other day to some devotees, and we were just talking about how many big industrialists and the wealthiest people in the world today, they are practically cutting their children out of their will. Or rather, they're giving like a fraction of a percentage to them. Because they want them to also work hard in the world to make it. Otherwise, if we just give them everything, they'll become spoiled. That's a typical Chatsworth Indian word, right? Don't spoil the children. Don't spoil by giving everything. So likewise in devotional life, spiritual life, if everything is just given and we do not put any effort, then the tendency will be there to take it for granted and rebel eventually and do the wrong thing because it came too easy. Because it came too easy. Yeah. So this point in the purport, it depends on the disciple to execute the process. Effort has to be there. And that effort is also a form of gratitude and appreciation. Also a form of gratitude and appreciation. Another thing in the purport that Srila Prabhupada talks about is that he says, whatever plan the Supreme Personality of Godhead contemplates, immediately fructifies. So simply from here, just contemplating something, immediately it's happening. This is one of the potencies of Krishna. He has Satya Sankalpa Shakti. That whatever he desires, whatever he thinks or wants, automatically is manifested. Actually, Satya Sankalpa is his name, is the name of the Lord. Is the name of the Lord. So this is how the Lord is known. One whose desire always comes to pass. And here we find not only is this a potency of the Lord, but even the devotee carries this potency. Dhruva Maharaj just thought, what about my mother? And immediately he was informed, don't worry, it's happening. Don't worry, it's happening. So even the devotee, the pure devotee, becomes one with the Lord in this situation, that whatever he or she desires automatically becomes fulfilled. Not by their own potency, Prabhupada says, but by their dependence on Krishna. By their own dependence on Krishna, they carry the same potency, simply from dependence. So through dependence. We see that the desires of the Lord, the desires of the pure devotee are never separated from the desires of the Lord. Will a pure devotee ever desire anything that's outside the desire of the Lord? If they do, then they're not pure. Pure devotee means pure in desire. To be one's desire to be in line with the desires of the Supreme Lord. So whenever they desire, because their desires are completely in line with Krishna's desires, their desires will always be fulfilled. Even though sometimes we may wonder, why is a devotee desiring in this way? Like some of even Srila Prabhupada's disciples may have questioned, why is Prabhupada working so hard for this Juhu land? Why is Prabhupada endeavoring so much for this facility or that? Why? And only later on do they realize, oh, that made sense. It was all in line to please Krishna. To please Krishna. Yeah. So this is another important point that comes out here in this purport, is that the Lord is Satya Sankalpa, and the pure devotee also carries the same potency of Satya Sankalpa. And the pure devotee is very cautious in one's desires. He takes pain to make sure that whatever he is desiring is in line with service to Krishna, for the pleasure of Krishna. Like that. Also in this purport, we are not going to go into it, but the very famously controversial statement to argue for and against, females becoming Diksha Gurus is in this purport. Prabhupada says here, Suniti, however, being a woman, and specifically his, Dhruva's mother, could not become Dhruva Maharaj's Diksha Guru. So that's pretty clear, isn't it? It's very clear. I mean, who can argue with such a statement? But you can argue. And we find so many arguments, and we find so many similarly powerful statements even from Prabhupada on this point. So what do we do sitting here today? How do we deal with that? Do we take a stand? We demand equal rights in this movement. No, there's no such thing as equal rights. No, it's not so black and white. It's not so clear. We have to dig deep dig deep in our consciousness to find the solution to this conundrum in our movement. Should ladies initiate? Shouldn't ladies? Or should ladies not initiate? And the way we come to that conclusion is not by having Siddhantic wars. Like Star Wars, we have Siddhantic wars, throwing quotes and Prabhupada says and verses from this scripture and that scripture at each other. That will never solve the situation. By showing and pointing out who's right and who's wrong. Never works. Please, in this, if there's questions, please do not ask me what's my take on this. Because as yet, I have had opinions that have changed over the last 2 years, back and forth and back and forth. And I came to this point that, I haven't even come to a point yet. So, I have no opinion. And you know what? I think it's okay not to have an opinion. I really think it's okay. Like one devotee who used to come here, very senior devotee, he would say, opinions are like noses. Everyone has one. But if you put it in the wrong place, it may get knocked off. Anyway, this is, if you knew the person I'm talking about, you'll understand his style. So it's okay not to have an opinion on everything. But what we should have an opinion, what we should have a strong determination on, whatever the gender is, we should have the same mood as Dhruva. What does Prabhupada say in the next line? Still, he was not less obliged to Suniti. He was not less obliged. Less than who? Less than to his Diksha Guru. He had tremendous obligation and appreciation and gratitude to this lady who may or may not be in the future a Diksha Guru. It doesn't matter. That is not the main point. Sorry to all those warring sides of this issue. The main point is our obligation and gratitude and appreciation to whoever gives us spiritual guidance and spiritual benefit. Male, female, child, elderly, it does not matter. If we have this principle in place as our foundational principle, then we can debate and interrogate the other issue. But when this foundation is not there, it's not strong, then offenses will develop and conflicts will develop. And we'll even use Srila Prabhupada's statements in our arsenal to defeat the other. Alright, with that we'll stop. Are there any comments or questions? Yes. Please shed some light and illumination on the process of prema. Suruchi, the other wife of Uttanapad. I should have answered it in that way. That was a very misleading answer.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. So yesterday actually, there was someone who put a video. It was about whether or not a lady in the house should follow her dreams.
Lady in the house should follow her dreams.
Yeah, a wife should follow her dreams, and then the man should not disturb the lady following her dreams. She would be more happier following her dreams, and then therefore there will be peace in the house. It don't block her from following what she wants to follow. I put an argument. I had an oath. So I said, wouldn't it be better to collectively have a vision that would be in line with everybody else's dream? Meaning from the onset, you know what the vision is for both of you, and fulfill the vision. Like if someone wants to make a business like spa, for example, you'll need resources. One of those will be human resources. If you volunteer as a human resource, then you follow the vision of the man who makes the vision, or the person who makes the vision collectively, and it must make sense towards the way you want to reach. So similarly, when I'm trying to understand is that the disciples' business would also center around the vision of the spiritual master. Hence, Jasa Prasadam, Bhagavat Prasadam, that to please the spiritual master, and Prabhupada gives instruction on, well, back to Godhead, for example, the purpose of distributing Brihad Madanga, the books would be to assist Srila Prabhupada to reach this particular goal. So then my comment would be, it wouldn't matter whether it's in the female form or in the male form that fulfills this quest. Because sometimes in my language they say that meaning that sometimes when no one else is doing something else, somebody else should do that particular thing, because no one else takes the responsibility for such a thing. And Bhaktivinoda says, sometimes the truth is hidden. You know, the truth may not be there, but then someone will come and give about the truth. My nose is, if the whole activity of the disciple is in line with the vision, whether it's female or male, I don't think it really matters.
I agree with your last statement. Prabhupada, in his engagement of his disciples, didn't place much importance on gender and ashram, and he engaged them, and whoever took up the challenge to fulfill his vision was very immensely reciprocated with by Prabhupada. Yeah. In terms of fulfilling the vision and desires of the Guru, he said, my Guru Maharaj sent sannyasis to England, and I sent grihastas to England, So, it doesn't matter, gender, age, varna, ashram. We all have our birthright, eternal right to fulfill the vision. Just to comment on what you said earlier, we should just let the wife follow her dreams and there'll be peace in the house. That's a bit of a simplistic way of looking at things. What's also simplistic is to look at it the other way, that there'll be peace in the house if the wife just simply follows the husband's dreams. It's also pretty simplistic. Especially in this complicated age that we live in, with so many influences and standpoints and indoctrinations and woke this and asleep that, and there's so many different things that we have to be aware of. My word. And you find how powerful media is today, churning a narrative and moving it in a certain pattern that can be very bewildering, even within the context of the Krishna consciousness movement, how we get influenced by the trends and feelings and lifestyles of everyone out there. And how sometimes we can actually deviate from principles of bhakti by conforming or aligning ourselves to cultures outside of the spiritual culture. I was listening to a small excerpt of an interview done by one, I don't know what's his genre of music, where there's a rapper or whatever, but he's called Neo. You've heard of him? N-E-Y-O. American, is he rap artist? Huh? Hip hop. Anyway. So he's also quite variegated. And he was taking back an apology in a very frank, straight way to some statement he had made before, apologizing to groups of people these gender-focused folks that, I'm sorry if what I said offended you, I take back. But he said, actually, I don't take back anything. My publicist said that apology. I don't believe that. And he gave his reasons. And I was like, phew, here's someone at last standing up for what he truly believes. My opinion may be different from his, but I respect the person for his strength and integrity to stand up for his right in saying that. But sometimes, to appease the public, we fall into their line of thinking. We are not prepared to stand up and say what our process presents. Yes, it is all embracing. We will accept everyone and engage them in Krishna consciousness, but we don't have to accept your understanding of life and the process and the goal. We don't have to. We're not compelled to do it. We don't have to do that. So it's too simplistic to say, yes, wife must follow the dream of the husband must follow the dream of the wife, then there'll be peace. Because even in the wedding, I do wedding ceremonies. Shoo, I've done so many. And these mantras play in one's mind. And one of the mantras is, the husband is making the wife vow, may your words follow mine, may your desires follow after mine, may your actions follow after mine. And some weddings, I'm thinking, so-and-so, do you really want to be taking this vow? I know you're a pretty strong-willed individual person, but they take the vow, and do they follow that afterwards? I don't know, So in an ideal world, which we do not have in this age of Kali, the husband is a very first-class devotee, first-class civilized human being, and naturally, according to the structure of social affairs, if the wife follows him, perfection is guaranteed. Not even if, the wife will naturally want to follow such a husband. Where are such husbands today? Okay, step up then, Prem Vikash. We're waiting for that. Then again, where are such wives today? They are. It's all work in progress. So I don't think we can ever give a very black and white answer to what should be done and what shouldn't be done. Every person, every couple, every community needs to be looked at in its context. And from there find the best position, the best platform from which they practice Krishna consciousness. Because all our roles, all our duties nowadays seem to be a little less rigid, more fluid, more flexible, and we have to work with that. We should all just desire what is best for this person's progress in bhakti. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Now go ahead.
Okay, my question is maybe crazy or stupid, but I have to understand it. So, in Krishna consciousness, the rules are not simple, but they're easy to understand, right?
The rules are?
The rules.
Gurus.
Rules, like rules.
The rules, okay.
They're easy to understand. We have books to read and regulations and all that. So why do we still need guidance from a spiritual master? And why do we have to please him to please Krishna? And if so, does it mean that Krishna loves spiritual masters more than servants, that we have to answer to spiritual masters to answer to him? I just don't get it. I don't get it.
That's a very good point, very good question. Sweetest question. So yes, rules, we have books, we have an abundance of scripture. Can't we just live by the scripture and that will be sufficient to practice in this age of Kali? Why do we need someone, a person there to guide us? Because the scriptures, the books, while they are very elaborate and as detailed as possible, is speaking to a static situation that the person at that time is experiencing whenever that history was being recorded and the lessons being taught. Like Arjuna's circumstances fighting on a battlefield is a very different set of circumstances to yours or to Prem Vikash's. But the principles that the scripture gives is perfect 5,000 years ago and it is perfect today. But how to apply it then was fine for Arjuna because he had living guidance. How to apply those principles for us today, we also need living guidance. Otherwise, by our fertile mind, we may make something else grow based on those principles. Weeds will grow, even based on the scriptural principles. A simple example can be given, if you want to become a heart surgeon, a cardiothoracic surgeon, you can find hundreds of 1,000-page books on that subject matter. You will find hundreds and thousands of videos, even on YouTube today. You will find it. You could study them for decades, watch those videos. You could know the content of all the books backwards and forwards. If I'm in need of a heart transplant, I will not come to you. I will not come to you if your only instruction was the books and the videos. Of course, if there's absolutely no one else, I'll come to you. That's true. But I will not come to you. Because you are not guided by a person who's an expert in the field. You haven't been trained by someone who's an expert in the field. That's important. I will not place my life, my spiritual life, in the hands of someone who just has book knowledge. I will want to place my spiritual life in the hands of someone who has been trained by a person. Would you place your hands in your life in the hands of a doctor that just studied the books? Because, by the way, I heard medical pass now is, I think, 40%. The person doesn't have to know 60% of the work. I mean, I'm speaking simplistically now, but just for the sake of a point. He can get away with only knowing 40% of anatomy and be a doctor that you have to go to cure your life-threatening disease. No. That doesn't work. Sometimes even seeing. Is it a proper example about the apprentice who follows the veterinarian around, and he sees, something problem with the horse or the dog, whatever, and he knocks here and there, and one day the actual trained vet is gone, and a call comes in for the apprentice, and he goes and he does exactly what he saw the master do, and he hit in the right place, but he killed the horse or something, some sort of. So it took years of training for the expert to get to that point, trained by his master. And you just want to see one video and try and do the same thing? It doesn't work. Is that okay on that point? The other point is, does it seem like, why does everything have to go through the spiritual master? Now that's a very important thing, right? And Prabhupada answers this in also a very simple analogy, that if you, in a couple of ways he answered it, all right? One is, if you see an important man on the street going for a walk with his dog, and you want to get that man's attention, what will you do? He's walking on the street with his dog, very important man. You want to get his attention. You want to get the person to connect with you. You'll pet the dog. You'll be kind to the dog. Here, give some treats to the dog. Right? And what will that do to the disposition of the dog's master in relation to you? It'll please him. He'll be more open and amenable to hear what you have to say. right? So, not directly equating spiritual masters to dogs, right? But that similar principle applies, that this person is very dear to Krishna. Yes, all living entities are dear to Krishna. Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita. I'm not partial, but for one who surrenders unto me in devotion, he takes great attention to that person. So sometimes we say everyone's equal, but some are more equal than others. They say things like that. So for that person who's dedicated their life to Krishna, Krishna is very much involved with them, very dear to them. But Krishna has a lot of anxiety for us who are conditioned souls to come to him. So how does Krishna then manifest his love for us? Because he is impartial, he manifests his partiality, his care and concern for us through his pure devotees. And they show partiality. They say, yes, the person comfort, he seems pretty, uneasy, uncomfortable, living the way he's living in this world. Let's show him some mercy.